Gone are the days of weak, feckless, America-last leadership from the Oval Office. The American people are sick and tired of the radical left forcing its woke policies into every facet of our lives.
We need to completely dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department.
Donald J. Trump is working tirelessly to implement the America First policies that you demanded. And I'll be by his side all the way.
Biggs, where's Andy? Boy, oh boy, there's a guy. It's tough.
America's golden age has arrived. It's time to make America great again. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Biggs, Congressman from Arizona's 5th Congressional District. Thank you for joining me on another one of my semi-regular podcasts of What's the Biggs Idea? I can't tell you how excited I am for today's guest. This is Representative Walter Hudson. Walter is a second-term representative in the Minnesota State House. Representative Hudson serves as the co-vice chair for the Judiciary, Finance, and Civil Law Committee. He also sits on the Public Safety, Finance, and Policy Committee, the Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Policy Committee, and the Education Finance Committee. Representative Hudson received his bachelor's degree in information technology from the University of Phoenix. And we're going to be talking today a bit about Minnesota fraud. And what has me so charged today is just a week ago, Representative Hudson and two of his legislative colleagues came in and testified before the House Oversight Committee about Minnesota fraud. And the thing about it is, I was so impressed is you guys have been working on this, Representative Hudson, for actually years. And you guys weren't surprised by any of the latest revelations. In fact, I think you probably knew about them, but we're trying to get to the bottom of it with your own leaders and couldn't get there. So I'm gonna ask you now to just kind of summarize what your duties are on that committee and what you guys have found over the years.
Well, I appreciate that question, man. I wish I got asked it more from folks in the legacy media, mainstream media. Yeah, the function of the committee is very specific. So it's the House Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Committee. And that second part, people just seem to just not catch. It's the State Agency Oversight Committee. And the reason why that's so important is because we're not just focused on, and the Democrats on the committee will often bring up like consumer fraud and try to divert, just like they did in Congress, try to divert to irrelevant topics. It's like, listen, we're not here to talk about consumer fraud. We got a Commerce Committee for that. We are here to talk about government programs that are administered by state agencies, by the Walz administration, and whether or not, and to what extent, they are missing the red flags, intentionally or unintentionally, that signal this massive fraud that just seems to continue to get more and more explosive as we dig into it.
Yeah, that is so important. I mean, let's just try to get to the magnitude before I've got some questions about specifically how it's supposed to work. It's obviously not working the way it's supposed to. But in this particular program, focused on daycare, right? Over a period of, I don't know how many years, 7 years or so, $18 billion, if I'm not mistaken, was allocated to this program. But in reality, $9 billion of it was fraudulently diverted and didn't go for this program at all. So when I get to it, I mean, I want you to elaborate on that just a sec, but also let's talk about how it's supposed to work. I mean, in a lot of programs, a lot of people don't know this, but in a lot of programs that come from the federal government, where the federal government is providing funding, they will often give a small percentage or some percentage for administrative functions for the state, because ostensibly to prevent this kind of fraud from taking place. But we'll get into broader nationwide fraud in a sec. But tell us about the numbers, and please tell us how it's supposed to work even in Minnesota.
Well, So first of all, I believe it's only 5 years, which
Okay.
makes it more intense, right? Over the course of 5 years, $18 billion worth of spending. And I also believe that that represents, if I recall at the time, Deputy U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson saying that that number was for all 14 of the Medicaid waiver programs that we
Okay.
have in this state. And so it goes well beyond childcare. Childcare just happens to be the focus right now, largely due to the Nick Shirley video and the many astounding things that were seen and heard in that testimony. You ask, how's it supposed to work? I would dare say it's supposed to work exactly the way it is. It is working as it was designed to work, because what we're dealing with here, what has become emergent in all of our investigations into these various schemes that are defrauding the US taxpayer and Minnesota taxpayers, is that we're not actually talking about benefit programs. We call them benefit programs. They're sold as benefit programs, but what they actually are is business. It's the intersection of the public and private sector in order to create an industry for people to profit from. And it takes place, and that's the point I tried to make in my opening statement when I was before you
Yeah.
guys in the House Oversight Committee, is that even if every jot and tittle of the law is being followed and the programs are being implemented as designed, they're still not functioning the way the American people and the people of Minnesota believe they are supposed to function. I think the average person on the street, somebody like one of my in-laws across from Christmas dinner, if I were to ask them, to summarize what they think these programs do, they would say, well, people fall on hard times and we help them out. People need health care or food or housing supports or whatever it is, and we're just helping people out because they're going through a hard time. We're nice people like that. But that's not how this functions. The way it functions is it sucks people in to the extent that the people are even real and not just a piece of paper in a filing cabinet somewhere. And it sets up a permanent, ongoing funding stream to whoever in order to provide these services in perpetuity. And what that does is it creates an entire sector of the economy that people who are politically aligned with the Democrat Party, both here in our state and nationally, can have jobs where they don't have to worry about going to work anymore. And so they're now freed up for full-time activism. They're freed up to go out and do voter registration. They're freed up to go out and protest in the street when ICE comes to town and things like that. And we see it time and time again, where on the left, they have a professional political class. And I'm not talking about the typical professional political class of like legislative staffers and lobbyists and campaigners. I'm talking about a professional political agitator class that is funded by your tax dollars. So I would say, how's it supposed to work? Exactly the way it is working. How should it work? Very much a different question.
Wow. That is actually profound, because I'm thinking of, there's like three levels of problem with the program, any program, right? And number one, it's designed to keep people dependent on that program, a lifetime, in perpetuity, right? It's not designed to give you short-term hand up and then away you go, trying to live the American dream. It's to kind of keep you down a little bit. And then the second thing is, it's also designed not to be efficient, but to actually create ghost jobs in a way. Which is an anti-capitalist point of view anyway, right? I mean, that's you're not in the free market anymore. What you are is you're in the market of government subsidization. And I guess, and the third one is it's designed to actually provide the impetus for agitation. The way you said it, I think, is political agitation, as opposed to trying to help people. And it's really kind of interesting. And all three of you testified to that. And what what have you seen in your research and your studies and you guys' investigation, which kind of points you in this direction?
Well, I mean, listen, it's certain patterns, right? Certain things that you see time and time again. So I think the big first earth-shattering headline was back when the Feeding Our Future fraud was
Right.
uncovered. $250 million worth of COVID era spending that went to fraudsters. And what was so remarkable about that wasn't just the fact that it happened, but the brazen nature in which the fraud was committed. I mean, you had people buying luxury homes, going on vacations, buying luxury cars, and they weren't even trying to hide it. Like, they didn't use an assumed name or go through some sort of pass-through entity. They're just out there signing leases with their own name on it, keeping the records as if there was never any possibility or expectation of the possibility that they would ever get caught, that they would ever be held accountable, or that it was even wrong or something to be ashamed of. Like, there wasn't even a sense of moral conscience by the folks who were engaged in this. And that raises certain questions. Like, who told them this was okay? Who showed them how to do it? What culture were they having crafted around them that left them with the impression that this is how we do things and you can expect it to continue and you shouldn't even be ashamed of it? And so as we've continued to see more fraud and more fraud and more stories and more prosecutions and more media stories, it all fits that pattern of folks who are engaged in brazen fraud. And the Shirley video highlighted some of it, right? In terms of like 24 businesses to a building. It's like you're not even trying to hide. You got a sign outside the office that says this is what we do, and all your neighbors in the building do as well. It's the sense of arrogance that you have to be willing to engage in fraud on an industrial scale, the sense of untouchability and political protection. What all that tied together conveys is that this is very much, in my estimation, a cartel. It is a Democrat cartel that has been built for political purpose in order to provide patronage for folks who will be electorally loyal and give them a return on investment in our elections.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff. I'm thinking about something you just said a minute ago. Who taught them how to do it? Somebody, these people, they were at first apprentices in this fraud, and then they were themselves master journeymen and journeywomen in the fraud. And somebody had to teach them how to do it, and because you had to fill out paperwork, you had to deliver something, you had to know where to go. And what's astounding to me is that nobody went out from the administration, the Waltz administration, to just check on it, just beforehand, because the paperwork comes in, they get paid before anything else happens, and it just kept going. And that's pretty brazen stuff. And so how to do is just, I mean, you kind of mentioned that, I think, Representative Hudson, when you were in Congress, and I thought that's really the question: how did they learn to do it? Who conveyed that? And then you get and then it just leads naturally to the question of the Keith Ellison, Attorney General Keith Ellison's video to the Somali population. What comment on that? Tell us what was in the video and what was he conveying?
Well, I believe you're referring to the audio recording that was taken,
Yes.
the clandestine audio recording. He didn't know he was being recorded. We still don't know exactly who recorded it, but it was entered into evidence in one of these Feeding Our Future trials by the defense, ironically enough. I don't believe it was ever actually cited in the trial, but it was entered into evidence. And so it was right there for anybody to see. Somebody found it, brought it to the attention of the Senate of the American Experiment, and then it got exposed. This was back during our session last year, probably around March or something like that. And the video itself, or the audio itself, comes from, I believe, 2021. So we're in the midst of the Feeding Our Future trials. And we actually did have state agencies looking into, in this particular case, it would have been the Department of Education because there's a nutrition program for schools, right?
Right.
Feeding our
Right.
future. And people were asking questions at the agency level. And the response, going back to my point about brazenness, the response from these folks feeding our future was to sue the state agency
Yeah.
under the allegation that they were being discriminated against because of their heritage, because they're Somali, because they're East Africa, because they're Black, whatever it is that they're citing. And so that's what the meeting was about. They were meeting with Keith Ellison, basically lobbying him to intervene in the conduct of the state agencies to get them off their back so that they can continue going about their business. And you listen to this audio, and at no point in it does Ellison ask any questions that you might be inclined to ask if you were actually engaging in government oversight, such as, well, tell me about the kids. Tell me about your operation. Tell me about your supply chains. Like, where are you getting the food? Who's preparing it? There was no curiosity about how they operate. There was only this sense of urgency to figure out a way for them to continue getting paid. That was the total topic of the conversation. And he affirmed this idea that they were being discriminated against and that the state agencies were acting inappropriately. And by the way, this is the Attorney General of Minnesota. He's the state's lawyer. He is the lawyer for the state agencies. So this would be the equivalent of like if somebody was suing you and you hired a lawyer and then your lawyer went and had a private meeting with the person who's suing you and talked crap about you. Like, you get this bar dude, right? And this is what I'm saying, is the level of brazenness, not just from the providers, but also from government actors like Keith Ellison. And then to sit around and pretend as though it doesn't mean what it means or it doesn't indicate what it clearly indicates is just stunning.
So it leads me to this question. I mean, I know everybody thinks of Minnesota as a blue state, but I still can't help but believe that Minnesotans are saying, "Hey, what happened here? What's been the reaction of the man and woman on the street?"
Well, I have long contended, even before we knew the breadth and scope of what I call a cartel, and the way in which I believe that puts a thumb on the political scale to result in governance that's not in alignment with the values of the people, right? I've long contended that there is something rotten in Denmark, right? Like there's something. Before we started to understand what it was, there was no way to really account for the fact that when you go out and you talk to normal Minnesotans, they ain't down with any of this. They don't like it. They don't want it to continue. They want it to stop. And yet Democrats keep getting elected. Well, how does that happen? It happens because they've come up with these schemes to put a giant illegitimate thumb on the scale to tilt the votes in their direction, to create incentive structures and political mechanisms to be able to go out there and churn out the ballots. And, voter fraud is a whole other thing we can talk about some other time. Yeah. But they have this whole complex designed in order to empower them and keep them in power, which I think goes a long way to explaining the brazenness and the audacity. They don't believe they're ever going to lose. And so they think they can just do whatever they want.
So this is kind of, when you talk about an apparatus or something like that, I think of the broader issue that many in Congress were trying to get at, which is the payments to NGOs all over this country. I mean, tens and tens of thousands of them who receive money. Maybe it's $1 million. I mean, this is an example. Somebody's getting $1 million for a grant program, and as the director of this program, he's taking a $360,000 a year salary. And then you have what else is going on there? Almost everything else is eaten up by employees and not going to what's supposed to be the recipients. But then if you follow the donation trail is coming from those individuals who are benefiting from the NGO and the grant money back to the Democrats. both on dark money and dark soft money and hard money, and that is that the kind of political apparatus that you saw in Minnesota?
100%, 100%. And it's I'm so glad Secretary Bessent was in town here in Minnesota this week, and he made some policy announcements after the fact. And I was just so thrilled to see that the Trump administration is not just talking, that they didn't come to play. They're going to actually engage in the real work to follow the money and figure out all these connections and bring it to light, because those connections are most certainly there. And again, it's not even necessarily illegal. All this is happening under the color of law.
Right.
Like it's legal to be corrupt. That's what we're learning. It's legal to be corrupt. And indeed, what's happening, these NGOs, they get all this money, taxpayer money. It's not like they go out with their hat in their hand begging for it. They just get it from their political patrons in elected office. And then they use that to set up a really nice lifestyle for themselves, of course, and also to provide contributions to the very people who enabled them to live such luxurious lifestyles. I mean, why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so the logic, it's one of those patterns that's so easy to see, but when it comes down to our government oversight and prosecutions, you have to have a higher standard of proof. You can't just go with your hunch. But it's like the corruption in the 30s in Chicago. Like everybody knew what was going on.
Right.
Like from the media on down, everybody knew. But it's, how do we get this guy? Let's do the tax evasion thing. Like it's that kind of game that is being played right now, where we're trying to figure out ways, and you guys are trying to figure out ways to actually stop this and hold people accountable.
Yeah. So before we run out of time, there's two more areas I want to cover. Number one is to be frank with you, I was pretty shocked about this. Multiple outlets have been reporting that leaving Minneapolis every day in cash is $1 million in cash from various. I think there's 5 couriers that services, and they fill out the paperwork, and it's legal, but it kind of gets to your point. It's still $1 million of cash that's blowing out of here, and that under the Biden administration, they watched it because they were concerned, but all they did is they tracked it, and they tracked it as far as Dubai. But from Dubai, where did it go? We're not sure, but we do know that there is this coincidence. I don't know, but Al-Shabaab, which controls Somalia, is the richest Al-Qaeda affiliate. So this is another issue that I think Congress is going to have to pass legislation on dealing with this, and it's going to deal with remittances and whatnot. But have you heard anything about that in the community there from Minneapolis or Minnesota?
Well, it's chatter, right? I mean, I've seen the same stories that you've heard about the cash leaving in suitcases through our airport and going overseas. And of course, there's this other, I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but this mechanism that they use that's kind of like this ancient system where you don't even have to physically move the cash, but you can still transmit it in effect with this scheme that they have going on. And so I don't doubt for a second that millions of dollars is flooding overseas in a mad dash. I mean, they're probably thinking, let's get the loot out of here while we got it before, we get caught and can't transfer it anymore. And we know that some percentage of that money is going to Al-Shabaab. It is going to fund terrorism. It's certainly not going towards the interests of the people of the United States. And when you talk about remittances, my God, worldwide, the remittances that go to Somalia, I forget the exact number, but it's in the high teens of their GDP is money sent back there from people over here, which that raises a really interesting question, doesn't it? Like, if all of these programs are meant to provide basic needs so that people can survive and don't die in the streets, how do they have so much left over to ship back home? That's weird.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I know that the actual remittances, a couple $100 billion a year now, remittances go out of this country, not picking on Somalia, but all over the world. A lot of that's from those who are illegally in the country. And when we had the open border, we had so many people coming in, those remittances they skyrocketed from where when I first did research on this 25 years ago. So the remittances are just astronomical now. Okay, but before you go, I want everybody to understand and that Representative Hudson did a great job last week in the hearing. He identified very correctly this notion of the raise your hand, or what's behind letter A or B. That is a common theme that my colleagues across the aisle use in oversight. I just wanted to play just to everybody get a feel for the craziness of this. This is what happened when Representative Hudson told Representative Presley from Massachusetts that he wasn't going to play in this gotcha game. You came to answer questions truthfully, but you weren't going to mess around with her. So, Cassie Ray, can you play this video for us? It's a brief video, but it's illustrative anyway.
This is accountability, and you are hypocrites. So again, I will take your refusal.
Thanks for demonstrating my opening
Mr.
statement.
Chairman, order, decorum. She's off the
Reclaiming
rails.
my time. I'm not off the rails, please.
You are
Enough
totally
with your
off the
tropes.
rails.
Nancy,
Order.
enough with your tropes. Give me my time back.
Order, Mr. Chairman.
If Republicans were serious about reclaiming
by somebody who
my
was
time,
supposed to serve me.
restore
You
the
press
clock.
your time.
Reclaiming
You're
my
overtime.
time.
You have no time left. You're
Reclaiming
overtime.
my
Accuse me of things that
time.
you're overtime.
You're out of
Order.
time.
Reclaiming my
You're out of
time.
time.
She has more
You're
time
out of
left.
time. We're done here.
You're
We're
not
done.
allowed to touch in out of time.
At least 10
Mr. Chair, she's out of time.
Time's
Restore
expired.
Out of order and out of time.
Ms. Presley, you've
You all
already
are very
secured your
unserious.
MSNBC spot tonight.
I'm not
Your time's
I'm
required.
looking for
Chair
accountability,
recognizes Ms.
and you
Mays
want to
from
You're
run
gonna be
from the
so good on
hypocrisy
MSNBC.
Chair
of your
recognizes
king
Ms. Mays.
and this administration.
Thank you, Mr.
Chair
Chairman.
recognizes Ms.
And
Mays.
Mr. Chairman, I agree.
You
She's
don't
going to
care
be a great
about
host on
hungry children. You wanna be
MSNBC.
cutting
This is my time.
What can I say? I mean, before I came to Congress, I never saw stuff like that, and but to see that and actually, one of the comments you made in there is you've proved my point, you've proved my opening statement, and but she was just off the rails there. But I just wanted your brief your reaction on testifying, and because I get frustrated because we only get 5 minutes to ask, and I was trying to get illicit testimony, whether it's from the one guy that was I thought it was really messed up on his opinions, but you guys in your panel, but give us a reaction.
Well, I mean, you guys definitely do things different in Congress than we do here in the State House. I do have to say that. And I tried to be very cognizant for people on both parties of their time limitation. And, there were questions like you've asked questions today that I could go off for 5 minutes on just by myself. But I know that, you've got what you want to say and what you want to get at. And so I tried to be very accommodating for all the members on both sides. But when my red line was, as soon as she started putting words in my mouth and my colleagues' mouths and defaming our character and calling us cowards and hypocrites because we won't play her stupid game show of raise your hand, at that point, the way I look at it, the attitude that I brought in that room is I'm the boss coming to perform an inspection of my house because I'm the citizen. I'm the member of the public. I've got constituents. Yeah. You people work for me. And I love the fact that you do, Andy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was the attitude, right? Now I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to engage in decorum. But once you cross that red line where you're abusing the process that governs the committee to defame me and call me a coward, your time's now my time, and I ain't giving it back.
Well, I thought you did a great job, and even today, I learned so much more, and I want the American public to learn, because I think you're an honest broker, and that's awesome. And so I appreciate you taking time with us today. I'm gonna. How do people follow you on social media?
I'm on X. I'm prolific there at Walter Hudson. Very simple. I also have a YouTube channel. That Walter Hudson is the username. You can look it up pretty easy. I try to put out stuff multiple times per week where I don't just react to things, but also kind of explain process behind the scenes. So you can find it.
Great. Great. And I actually went before early this morning. I was watching one of your old YouTube videos. Very informative, very good stuff, actually. So I encourage you to give Representative Hudson a check out here. If you want to follow mine, you can go to X at Rep Andy Biggs AZ on Facebook, Congressman Andy Biggs, or you can go to biggs.house.gov on the internet. But Walter, thanks so much for being with me, and thanks for what you're doing there. You're doing a heroic work, and it needs to happen. And look, doesn't matter what party you're on. I mean, we heard that the Democrats kept saying they want to solve fraud wherever it goes. They just didn't want to solve it in Minnesota, apparently. But God bless you. Keep going, and thanks for joining me. And folks, we'll catch you next time on What's the Big's Idea.